Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having amazing days, weeks, months, years. I fucking mean it. Today, we'll be talking about on Asian masculinity and my honest thoughts on it. I recently got a comment on a video I made like really long time ago, and it really kind of gave me some insights to realize, yeah, there's really no like legitimate arguments for and against Asian masculinity and the brutal, honest truth. I feel like there's some channels, right, who are in complete denial of the stereotypes and racism that does exist. But on the other hand, there's like these channels who pretty much are very nihilist, saying it's completely pointless if you're Asian and you can't necessarily ascend to the levels ascend to the level of achievements and success that you would want. So, hope to bring those two together and be the middle ground. Bring everything back into homeostasis. Science. But honestly, what do I mean by Asian masculinity, right? I think Asian men especially struggle with what it means to be a guy or what it means to be a fucking man. Because I think there are a lot of like perpetuated stereotypes and kind of like hidden jabs that are projected through the media that kind of affects your psychology growing up and moving forward, right? I think a lot of it starts with just like confidence issues. And I think just being plainly, Asian men are just kind of excluded from like the dating scene. They're just kind of excluded from any like models of, I don't know, confidence, right? Or positions of power, to be quite frank. If you think of like a CEO or you think of someone who's like a badass, it's usually like a white guy or a badass black guy. I mean, currently with what's being, I don't know, portrayed in the media. But if you think about it, look for Asians in ads. Look for Asians in movies. Look for Asians on Instagram. They're not really there. If you look at any ad right now, Asians aren't really like in any, they're not fucking found anywhere, okay? It's kind of, we're being excluded right now because we're the model minority, which is like fucking hilarious in its own right. And especially with like the hidden jabs that are kind of like given to us through these online dating apps, it's kind of fucked up, right? I didn't realize this, but like, let's go to the brutal hard truth and the negative side of it. But these are things you need to acknowledge and accept in order to move on, in order for you to live your life. There are some girls who see Asian as bad or color as bad, and this racism is prevalent, but no one will ever admit to it. I had my girlfriend actually was talking to one of her so-called friends, and she's like, "Oh, you swipe on Asian? Wait, what? You swipe on color? Like, no, like if people just immediately swipe away from you. I don't know. I don't fucking do dating apps. I don't know which direction it goes, but just no matter what you put, no matter what you say, no matter how good and attractive you are, some people see Asian as unattractive because they've been fucking brainwashed by the media and society. So it's almost like not even their fault, but there is a part of ownership on that. And that's kind of the sad part, right? And no matter how like confident and masculine you are as a guy, as an Asian guy, right? You are viewed as an ethnic confident guy. Not just a guy, but the ethnic guy, which is like, what the fuck, right? We live in a culture where everyone's saying race doesn't matter, but if the first thing you talk about is someone's race, don't you like perpetuate these stereotypes and kind of like let the other person know that the most important thing about them is their race? Kind of fucked up. So yeah, like racism is super real, and I will want to say this from my personal experience. I can be completely wrong. When you are outspoken and confident and courageous in any endeavor of your life, sports, work, friendship, whatever, and you come out very confident as an Asian guy, people are kind of stunned by it. Because if I'm being honest, I don't know too many Asian guys that fucking are like super confident or, you know, or some, I actually know a good amount, right? But that's fairly recently. But people do, they're kind of afraid of it. They get challenged by it. Very, very do. They do so much. I don't know. The Asian culture is kind of viewed as like submissive and all this kind of like bullshit, and it doesn't really feel good. And I'm going to say this. There's a lot of negative things that are going to be reinforced in your journey to becoming a healthy masculine guy. And I'd say that these obstacles aren't necessarily prevalent in any other race besides Asian, like Indian and Eastern Asian. Whole point, right? We kind of have that working against us. But you can acknowledge it and realize this is a great filter to get away with not dealing with bullshit or negative people. It's an amazing thing. You can spin this insecurity, you can spin this negative thing into a positive, and it's like a filtering mechanism because pretty much you'll be able to identify if someone's using your race against you or just being fucking blatantly racist but not even knowing it. I think if I'm being honest, like when I was me and my girlfriend, I got set up with like one of my so-called friends, and she pretty much said like, yeah, he's not like the most masculine because he's Asian, but like, you know, he doesn't have an accent, but he's super confident. It's like, see what I mean? It's like these hidden jabs that people don't realize are kind of fucked up. And I know that like, these are just negative things, but the thing is, you can't just dwell on it, right? So we have to acknowledge these facts, and there are negative people out there, but what are the positives? There are people in this world that will love you regardless of what you look like and your fucking height. I know, and some people are not superficial and just real, but they come pretty fucking rare. I'll say that, right? So how I put it is, you'll find a lot of people that don't necessarily like you or vibe with you, but when you meet someone that loves you, they fucking love you. And it's like you have the quality of friends versus the quantity, which is kind of scary to think about, but I think it's well worth it in the end. I don't know where this rant is really going, right? I just want to give my 2 cents on it. So I think being an Asian guy in 2022 is probably like one of the hardest times to kind of do it. Because I think in the past, when there was like, I don't know, the Chinese Exclusion Act or very blatant racist things that are very obvious, I feel like now it's all kind of hidden and subconscious, which makes you feel like you're going crazy. I feel like before you had a legitimate excuse to blame it on something, but now it's just kind of so ingrained in the culture we live in, you don't really know why you're not the most confident. I think growing up, that was one of the biggest things I realized was like, well, why is it so easy for friends who like are white and have like a similar like background? How the fuck can they kill it? Or when you look at someone, when they interact with a certain person, I was like, wait, why do they get a different response than me? And it's like not like we're using different like vocal projections or tones or we're dressed that vastly different, but I think it's the race thing. You go and talk to them, you're kind of viewed as a foreigner. And here's the really sad truth about being Asian or a minority right now, especially with the current political crisis with China right now. No matter what you do and the way you serve your country and serve to benefit your society at large and the sacrifices you make, no matter how many taxes you pay, to some people, you'll never be viewed as American. Kind of a hard pill to swallow. And that sucks. But at the end of the day, it kind of reinforces this idea of self-reliance and to find, I don't know, happiness and meaning from within instead of going outside and having that being generated from the external, getting external validation versus getting internal validation from yourself. And I think that's the conclusion I kind of came to through all this, was that it's so simple. It doesn't really matter what people think or do. You're going to deal with it anyways. It's always going to be there. But it's like, how do I feel about it? And whether if I accept this criticism or shit they give me, if someone treats me with disrespect, you have the opportunity to not accept it. You don't have to accept that compliment. You don't have to accept that diss. You don't have to accept the negativity. It can be said, but only you can decide if it fucking hurts you. And I think that's a really hard thing sometimes to realize, but it comes back to my whole idea of self-love and abundance. When you kind of figure out who you are, I'm not saying 100%, but you get a pretty good grasp of it, it makes everything so much easier. Because someone that you don't really give a fuck about walks up and be like, you're not American, oh, you're Asian, ew, gross. It's like, cool, I will never interact with you again. But you kind of go on with your day and you accept the world at large is kind of like this. But you also find people that love you for who you are. For every imperfection, for your race. Not saying your race is imperfection. Some people it is, but makes life all that better. And kind of goes back to the idea of self-reliance. And it's a brutal truth to swallow, and it's super arduous and difficult moving forward. Not going to say it's going to be the easiest thing, and I still struggle with it. But what's the other option? Stay in your room and just staying at your computer all day? Not saying you can't play video games, but like, you're missing out on life by not taking this risk. And negativity sometimes is just a part of it. People making fun of you is just a part of it. But how else are you going to find the people that you care about you? You have to keep on searching because they're definitely not going to come to you just if you're sitting at home. To go out public, do the scary thing, day in, day out. Terrifying, I know, but what's the alternative? As always, wish you the best. Namaste.